So I haven't even gone in there yet. I'm just looking at it from the outside, but holy shit, guys. This is where Nevermind was recorded. This is Sound City. This is absolutely insane. So I just got back from a trip to Los Angeles. It was my first time in California. I did some pretty insane things when I was there. Stuff you're going to be seeing on my channel over the next few weeks. But easily one of the biggest highlights was getting to go inside and tour Sound City. Yes, the Sound City studios where Nevermind was recorded in May of 1991. For Nirvana fans, that's like hallowed ground right there. Nevermind was a once-in-a-generation genre-defining album. It changed the course of the musical landscape in the early 90s and everything that has happened after since. And this studio right here is where it all happened. But it's not just the Nevermind studio, so many classic albums have come out of this studio. Neil Young, Fleetwood Mac, Tom Petty, Rage Against the Machine, Johnny Cash, Weezer, Slipknot, Bob Dylan, just to name a few. So many monumental records came out of this building. They are not open to the public. In present day, they're still a fully operating studio. So it's not just a historical site. It's a place where incredible albums are still being recorded to this day. I reached out to Sound City online and described what I do and said, hey, I'm going to be in Los Angeles. I know you're not open to the public. Is there any chance I could take a peek in the studios, even if it's just for 5 minutes? Can I just check it out? And let me tell you guys, the crew at Sound City could not have been nicer or more accommodating. I am so grateful and forever thankful that they took the time to let me in and show me around. As an audio engineer and a Nirvana fanboy, it was truly a dream come true to be able to step into this building. Out of respect, I did not take many photos or videos while I was in there because there were multiple sessions either happening or rooms being set up for sessions that were going to happen that day. But I will show you the footage that I did get and describe my experiences as best as I can so it hopefully feels like you walked there right alongside me. So first of all, when my Uber pulled up, I cannot tell you how excited I got just to see this logo, just to see this archway. Because if you've seen the pictures and the documentaries, you're going to recognize this instantly, the entrance to Sound City. Something I didn't realize until I was physically there is that Sound City Center is basically a complex with many different studios on the inside. From reading about the Nevermind sessions over the years, I knew that there was a Studio A and a Studio B, but I would learn while I was there that there are more studios than just those two. This is the other end of the archway, so this is when I was on the inside. As you can see, there's a parking lot and there's a ramp to additional parking upstairs. But all these buildings here, they're all studios. There's Studio A, Studio B, Secret World Studios, and a Foley studio. For those of you who don't know what Foley is, that's basically like recording all the sound effects for like a TV show or a movie. Recording sound effects like waves or like the sound of a can crunching, like any sound effect that isn't dialogue essentially in a movie is recorded on a Foley stage. Everything here in the complex is recording studios except for one location. You guys are not going to believe what it is. Check this out. What are the chances? Here at Sound City, there's Eric's guitar shop. This was meant to be. You can't make this up. Yes, there's a guitar shop called Eric's Guitar Shop, and of the many ways to spell Eric, it's spelled the same way my name is spelled. What are the chances that connected to Sound City Studios is Eric's Guitar Shop? So when I got there, first stop was the Sound City Studios office building. In their offices, they've got plenty of records and pictures on the walls, but of course my eyes gravitated to this awesome picture of Dave in Studio A. Something really cool that they showed me in the office is they have an original framed Billboard 200 chart from when Nevermind went #1 in early 1992. They also have this original issue of Rolling Stone from 92. So we left the offices and the first stop was Studio A. So we were let in the Studio A by an audio engineer named Will. He was there setting up for a day of work, waiting for that day's artist to start their session, but he was kind enough to take some time to let me in and to show me around, so thank you so much, Will, at Sound City. But before even walking into Studio A, you see right away outside the front door the iconic Sound City mat. I've seen this in countless pictures, so it was exciting to see it in person. So right when you walk into Studio A, you're immediately met with a lobby that has like couches and areas to lounge. There's a wall with many record plaques on display of the work that's been recorded there. And of course, they have one for Nevermind. This is actually an original plaque from the 90s, commemorating when Nevermind went 4 times platinum in the US. Platinum indicates 1 million copies sold. Nowadays, Nevermind is certified 13 times platinum in the US and 30 times platinum worldwide. So you've got the lobby, and then like the left corner of the lobby is a door that brings you into Studio A. So you walk through that door, and immediately you're in a narrow corridor with like brown walls and a brown ceiling. And it's a pretty short corridor. As you walk through it, immediately to the left, you find the door that will bring you into the live room, but then walking straight brings you to the control room. The studio is completely unchanged as it was in not only 91, but back when it was built in 1969. So walking in there is really like a time capsule. So we walked into the control room, and instantly I found where this picture was taken, because the brown wall is exactly the same today. It took a whopping like 5 seconds to get goosebumps in that room. It was crazy. So I realized from being in there that the control room is a lot smaller than I imagined. So I learned from being there that in this picture, Kurt and Dave are right in front of the soundboard. That's where Dave is sitting in front of. If this picture extended any further to the left, you would see the soundboard. The original Neve 8028 soundboard is not there present day. It was actually bought by Dave Grohl back in 2011, and it's now in his studio in Studio 606, which I was told is actually not that far from Sound City. But they still do have a large analog board there, and Will was telling me that this is very similar to the Neve board that they sold. And in front of the soundboard is a large window where you can see into the live room. So I wasn't in the control room for that long, but I gotta say, guys, while I was there, I had so many things rushing through my head. Just visualizing where this picture was taken, that Kurt was standing right there and Dave was sitting over here. Imagining a young Butch Vig at the soundboard standing there looking through the window and seeing Nirvana track. Imagining the famous story that Butch Vig has told, to where Kurt came into the control room after a failed take of Something in the Way, and he was really frustrated. He was like, I want the song to sound like this. And he sat on the couch in the control room with his Stella Harmony, started playing and singing the song super quietly. And then Butch goes, wait, hold on. He sets up mics on the spot in the control room, unplugs the machines that make loud noise. And as Butch has said, he clicked record, held his breath for like 3 minutes as Kurt recorded the vocals and the guitar to Something in the Way right there in the control room. So we take a few steps to the door that's connected to that corridor I mentioned. Gosh, there it was. I stepped into the live room of Studio A, a room that is considered to have one of the best drum sounds in music. It's just a legendary room. And walking in there, I could just hear it, even though nothing was playing. Walking through that door into the live room was all of a sudden like, wow, everything is so dead. Everything is so pitch silent right now. Let me tell you guys, being in the control room was a complete trip. Don't get me wrong, but being in Studio A's live room, that is my Abbey Road. Like, that's where Nevermind was recorded. Dave Grohl had his drums set up right there in the center of that room. Kurt and Chris had their amps in isolation rooms, and that's where the three of them tracked that album live. Just imagining the three of them running through like Teen Spirit, In Bloom, Breed, Drain You. Imagining that failed take of Lithium and then going straight into Endless Nameless where Kurt smashed his guitar in the studio while recording. Let me tell you guys, it was a lot to take in, just physically being in that room with that legacy. The sounds that Kurt, Chris, and Dave recorded in that room, it went on to change music history. That's where it happened. So I confirmed with Will. I said like, hey, I've read online and in books and in the documentaries that they recorded Nevermind live, but only Dave's drums were out here, and that Kurt and Chris' amps were in isolation rooms. Am I remembering that correctly? And Will was like, yes, that's how they would have done it. So if you would have been in this room, you only would have heard drums. So then I asked, where would those isolation rooms have been? And he pointed to this door on the right side of the room. He said that beyond those doors is a series of isolation rooms, and Kurt's amp would have been in one room, Chris' amp would have been in another, and that's how they would have tracked to get complete isolation of all the elements. So in the center of the live room, they had a drum mat set up, probably for that day's session. And Will was like, Eric, go stand in the center of that rug, because this is the best spot in the room. So I stood in the center of that drum rug, and from behind me, Will hit a bass drum. And let me say, guys, it was almost unsettling how that hit like resonated in my chest and in my body. It just took that one kick drum hit just to like hear the sound and the magic of Studio A. Sound City has a reputation of having one of the best drum sounds in the world, and it's largely because of that room. There is really magic there. So I took a minute to just like walk around and just like really take it in, like really appreciate the fact that I was physically there, knowing like this is like a once in a lifetime thing. I will never be in this room ever again. And again, just imagining the three of them in that room, headphones on, running through Nevermind songs, just absolutely insane. So we left Studio A, said goodbye to Will, who was going to continue to set up for that day's session. So as you walk away from A and continue walking towards the back of the complex, you see the entrance to Studio B. Then not too far from there, you see the entrance to the Foley studio. These are 2 rooms that I didn't go in because there were active sessions going on as I was there, but really cool to see just like how physically close like all these like neighboring studios are. So as we continue to wrap around the complex, I did get to go inside Secret World Studios. In there, I met Michael, who is an audio engineer who runs the studio, and he was so nice, so welcoming. He showed me his control room and his beautiful live room. He talked to me about the different DAWs that he uses, the different clients that he's seen, the large scope of music that he records there. And then he started telling me stories about when he visited Abbey Road in London. So him and I were really geeking out, talking about all this audio engineering and recording and studio stuff. So after he told me about going to Abbey Road, I told him that my 3 artists that I'm completely obsessed with and want to learn everything I can about them would be Nirvana, the Beatles, and Buddy Holly. So then I started to tell him about how back in 2019, my wife and I took a tour of Norman Petty Studios in New Mexico. That's the studio where Buddy Holly recorded like literally 98% of his music. In there, they still have the actual amp that Buddy recorded with. They also have the Celeste that was used on Every Day, which I played really poorly.
If they charge these other blazers were $45. Tommy's was 50 because he was tall.
If you're in the Los Angeles area and you want to record in Sound City, hit up Michael. I'm going to link his website here and in the description if you want to check him out. So from Michael's studios, our last stop, Eric's Guitar Shop. We went in there and I met Eric himself, the owner. And I was like, hi, Eric. I'm Eric. So I told him about what I did, like why I'm there in Los Angeles, told him about my channel. And I talked about how like, man, this is like prime real estate. You are next door to Sound City. I can't imagine the people that come in through your door. And he mentioned that he's had his shop since 1990. So I had to ask him, I said, hey, if you were here since 1990, do you remember when Nirvana was next door recording? And he went on to explain that when his shop first opened in 1990, he wasn't physically there connected to Sound City. He was down the street just a few minutes away. So he was still the closest guitar shop to the studio. And he said that ever since he opened his doors, he's gotten so many celebrities and also so many unknowns too. He said it was like too many people to remember. So he said at the time, you know, Kurt and those guys, they would have been unknown. So if they came in through my door to get work done, I wouldn't have remembered because they weren't well known at the time. So he said to me, I don't have any specific memories of them being in there, but I can't completely rule out that they didn't at least stop by the shop. I mean, it's hard to imagine that they didn't at least step in. Like if you're in the session and like a string starts buzzing or your guitar starts acting up, just go down the street and 1 minute later you're at a guitar repair shop. Chances are high, we'll probably never know, but it's a fun thought to think that like at least one of the Nirvana guys walked into that guitar shop. So after we were done geeking out over that, I said to Eric, do you have any merch? Do you have any like shirts or anything that says Eric's Guitar Shop? And he was like, yes, I do, just right over there. And I couldn't help myself, guys. Again, it was so hard not to buy one of everything because it's Eric's Guitar Shop. It's my name. So I got some awesome shirts and stickers while I was there. I'm excited to rep Eric's Guitar Shop in future videos. And I'm going to link his website here and in the video description. If you go to it, you can see his clientele list, and it is amazing the names that have gone through that door. After that, I circled back to the office to pick up some Sound City merch. As you can see, there was no way I could go to Sound City without picking up merch. I got this awesome sweatshirt. I got a t-shirt too. I'm going to link the official Sound City website here and in the video description. If you want to get your own merch, it's well worth checking out. I mean, come on, who doesn't want to rep what is arguably one of the greatest and most influential recording studios in the world? I will never ever be able to thank everyone I met there enough for their kindness and their generosity for letting me in their facility. Thank you so much, Brenda, Samantha, Will, Michael, Eric's Guitar Shop. Just physically being in this location, in these buildings, was just a dream come true. Like, it was already such a thrill to be on the outside and to see the sign and that archway, but to go in, to stand in that control room in Studio A's live room, something I will never forget. And last year when I went out to Indianapolis to the Jim Irsay collection to check out and document Kurt's competition Mustang, I remember thinking to myself at the time, this is the most Nevermind experience I will ever have, and nothing will beat this. And holding that guitar was a life highlight, but being in Studio A, being in that live room, that was like peak Nevermind right there. Like that right there, I will never have a more Nevermind experience than actually standing in the room where Nevermind was recorded. And I cannot tell you guys just how grateful I am that just being a huge nerd here in this channel has led to these mind-blowing opportunities. It's gonna sound cliche, but like dreams do come true. Just like stick to it, follow your passions, put your heart into everything you do because you just never know where it will take you. Thank you so much for watching, and an extra special shout out to my Patreon supporters. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nirvana Guitars, and check out my other Nirvana gear videos right here on YouTube.